Hi, my name is Gerhard Schwantner. Welcome to Selling Power TV. Today we have the great pleasure of meeting with Chris Beall. He's the CEO of Connect and Sell. Welcome.
Hey, great to be here, Gerhard.
So you talk a lot about cold calling, and you talk about market dominance, and you talk about trust. It's like a minestrone. How do you fit this all together?
Well, it's like a delicious minestrone if you make it right, and it's a disaster if you don't. So the connection that I'm making is pretty simple, really. And that is, in business-to-business markets, trust dominates because business buyers are very, very reluctant to buy until they trust one of the sellers a lot, like more than they trust themselves. And that's because the seller knows more than they do, and the buyer is betting their kids' college education, their retirement, who knows, maybe even their marriage, unbeknownst to themselves, on the outcome of that purchase transaction. That is, whatever they buy better work. So buyers are conservative, and until they trust, and trust a lot, they don't buy. And so now the question is, well, how do you get buyers to trust if the need you have is to dominate markets? Because on the flip side, all companies that fail to dominate at least one market go out of business. So how do you bridge that?
Right.
And especially in a world that is getting harder and harder and harder to have a human connection with somebody where trust is made. And that's where cold calling comes in.
So you're really throwing down a gauntlet because most people use language like market share or market penetration, and you use the word market dominance. It's kind of a bold statement, isn't it?
Well, it is, unless you pay attention to how markets really work and how they treat the companies that are competing in markets. So the issue is, if you don't dominate a market, then you're not the preferred vendor in all ambiguous situations. And that's what you want to be. That's what it means to dominate, is if somebody's not sure, they buy from you because you're the dominant player.
Right.
And that conservatism of the business-to-business buyer causes them to want to buy from whoever is dominant because it's safe. Right. So therefore, flip it around. It's unsafe not to be the dominant player, because eventually you'll be edged out or moved down or marginalized by the dominant player.
Right. Wasn't there an old saying by IBM saying nobody got ever fired buying IBM solutions?
Exactly.
Right.
And that's true in every market. There's an IBM equivalent back at the time.
Right.
In every single market, there's a go-to company that's safe to buy from.
Right.
They have a huge advantage.
Right. So market dominance really is part of the mindset of the CEO. And there are some CEOs that make really bold statements and say, we are going to dominate. And then the stock moves, like now, ServiceNow. Look at the stock. When Bill McDermott came in, he declared victory before he even started. And the stock market moved like within 2 months to the tune of about $10 billion.
In a way, what the stock market was saying was that they were discounting the stock price, the valuation of ServiceNow, based on the failure to declare dominance, which everyone should do.
Right. So that's a bold move. Then let's talk about the cold calling. A lot of people still say that cold calling is dead.
Well, we're pretty sure at Connect and Sell it's not dead.
Right.
So we do way more than 50 million fully navigated dials a year. We connect about 2.65 million conversations. So we have the luxury of actually looking at the data, the real data, the data where people are having conversations, and whether those conversations are moving business forward or not. It's abundantly clear, if you look at the data, that within a conversation, once it starts, that human connection immediately makes a difference.
Right.
And it's hard to say something's dead that actually works and works at that scale.
I think that what is dead about cold calling is the obsolete technology that people are using by not moving to Connect and Sell.
Well, we think so too, and it's just math. It's not really our peculiar view or parochial view, it's just math. If you're talking to 3 people a day, which is pretty standard for using the telephone, you're actually working for 3 minutes a day, and how can you actually do anything? How can you dominate at 3 minutes a day?
You can't.
Even at 30 or 40 minutes of conversation a day, it still feels a little bit light, but that's 10 times more than your competitor, and you don't have to beat the world. You don't have to beat an arbitrary standard. You just have to beat your fiercest competitor and dominate one market.
Share
So-
one client success story and give us some numbers.
I'll tell you the kind of client. They're in the software industry.
Okay.
They do software mostly for SMBs, some for larger companies, sort of in the travel expense management business. And they get done today with about 70 people now, started with about 50, maybe 80 now. What would have cost them back when they got started with 50, about 450 people. And they have 300,000 or 400,000 conversations a year with their market, and they dominate. I mean, they simply have trust-oriented, trust-based conversations. And you know, folks don't replace things like big software overnight.
Right.
It takes a while, it takes the timing to be right. And so their approach is what's called voice nurturing. And they try to have a conversation with every relevant party in their market about once a quarter. And when they're ready to buy, who are they going to buy from?
Well, if anybody would like to get more information about Connect and Sell, go to connectandsell.com. Is there a white paper that people should download?
There are several that are out there. There's also some case studies. The really fun stuff actually is what I publish on LinkedIn. So I put numbers out there regularly for our own performance. Also, if somebody wants to really learn about market dominance, I have a podcast that's new. It's called marketdominanceguys.com. Market Dominance Guys, like the car guys, but the Market Dominance Guys. And Corey Frank and I speak frankly about the nature of market dominance.
Also, follow Chris Beal on LinkedIn. He posts a lot of great ideas. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Gerhard.